Galactic Standard Date. Year 11356. Day 95. Sol Standard Date. 4th of the 7th, 3267. Basilisk sat down and shut his eyes tight as he tried to focus on the memories that Amaranth had granted him. After a minute of silence and darkness, he saw a small flash of gold enter his vision. The flash of gold quickly encompassed his entire field of vision, and his eyes shot open. He was in a place of serenity. Life was everywhere. The very sky was gold. The flora and fauna grew and lived without the barest hint of danger. This was a place of everlasting peace. There were so many colours and creatures that Basilisk couldn't keep track of it all. It was beautiful to the point that Basilisk could feel tears streaming down his cheeks as all of his stress disappeared. He looked around and then noticed a small hornless dragon eating some golden berries with a massive smile on her face. Her sleek hide held no spikes. It seemed soft, and it was red now. Basilisk smiled at the realization that this is what Amaranth was originally like before the pain and suffering. This was heaven before the death of God. His heart sank at the realization that this is what they lost. When Amaranth moved, he saw another figure, and his jaw dropped. The figure looked as if he was made of gold with silver inlays throughout his body, giving the impression of veins. He had hair that flowed down in a cascade of silver and gold. Most importantly, he was a human. Aside from the coloration of his body, anyways. He walked closer to the man and noticed that he was holding something and showing it to Amaranth. As he walked around to get, he kept an eye on the golden man, observing every detail, trying to discern how it was possible. Then he noticed what the man had in his hand. Oh, you have to be fucking kidding me. He was holding the earth itself, adjusting every little detail. Then Basilisk noticed that it wasn't just one earth. It was every possible iteration of Earth. The man looked up and at Basilisk, then smiled and waved. Amaranth looked at the man quizzically, and then at the empty space that Basilisk's mind was inhabiting. You okay, Dad? You just waved at nothing. The man smiled at her and then set the earths into the air, letting them float. He passed his hand in front of her, freezing her in time. He then walked right over to Basilisk. Hello, my son. I've been waiting for you. Is this place not magnificent? Basilisk blinked a few times in surprise before sighing. I guess you are literally God. I shouldn't even be surprised. To answer your question, yes, this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. The man smiled and a golden tear fell from his face. Yet my own sons and a daughter destroyed it. Anyways, I'm sure you have questions. Basilisk nodded. First, let us introduce ourselves properly. I'm Basilisk, and apparently your new son. The man breathed deeply and adopted an expression of true serenity. My name is Akshik, father of the gods, and creator of the multiverse. Basilisk nodded his head. It is nice to meet you, Akashik. However, I do have questions. I want to know what is going on with Earth. I thought the Toractel had genes spliced themselves into us, yet I can clearly see my home spinning there behind you. Ah, yes. Your planet there was the 10th creation. I had people made for each of my children, and then thought I needed one for myself. I created your species. Your planet will exist forever as your home, even after being destroyed in 2 universal annihilations and several other catastrophes. Whenever it is destroyed, it will reform. Though the destruction did affect the planet, turning it more and more dangerous with every disaster. You were stuck on the original template, though. The template is what is floating behind me. This is the day that Mail traps me in a void. I end up leaving your world in the Veil itself, and it has stayed there, technically. This is why it has been impossible for your home to be destroyed until now. The part of the Veil that your template resides in broke away when your people broke it themselves. This is why your people weren't found until then. Nobody knew that you were my creations. Nobody except for Maleficus over there, and they drove her to insanity. He took another deep breath and said, Now, for the Toractel. The Toractel were led by Lunicia, who strove to revive me. They were created for her, after all, so they followed her without hesitation. Mail punished Lunicia for trying to revive me. She was attempting to create a suitable vessel for me after she had been unable to find your world. He punished her by making her people incapable of reproducing by any means. He forced her to watch them slowly die off, one by one. It just so happens that Mel's attempts at being the biggest dick to ever exist is what led her to your world. Her quest to revive me turned into a quest to both revive me and fix her people. So she spread her veiled vessels around the stars and took to the stars herself, thus expanding her search beyond the veil and the worlds that she knew had been created, bringing her to you. She thought she managed to fix her people, but it was more than that. She had tripped the veil space that I had made your template in when she spliced the genes of her people, which had my markers within their genes. This jump-started the dominant template, even though it was severely damaged. Thus you were born, a mixture of myself, the Toroctel, and the trials and tribulations that your world went through. Basilisk's mind was racing as he considered all of the information that had been laid before him. After a few minutes of silence, he looked back to Akashiq. 2 more questions. First, how did the Toroctel survive the destruction of the universe twice? Seems like a bit of a plot hole to me. Second, how the fuck are we having a chat in the middle of Amaranth's memories? Akashiq laughed. Those are easy. We are literal gods. Preventing a world from dying through an apocalypse or 5 billion is easy peasy. I'm talking to you now because you've already made a connection with me somehow, and that made this relatively easy. I jumped into Memory Me's body because it would be easier to chat with you this way than to chat through telepathy. There's nothing to it. You shouldn't underestimate gods, although I suppose defeating 2 gods while you were immortal would probably make us rather lackluster, wouldn't it? Basilisk snapped his fingers. Ah, that reminds me. How am I so powerful, and why can't my people interact with the veil for shit? Akashiq's smile dropped from his face. You are so powerful because your species was created to become my replacements in the creation of the universes. I was going to spread you all out and have you become administrators and creators throughout all of existence. Thus you were all technically supposed to become gods. That was my original goal for your kind. The damage to your world template damaged you as well. Being thoroughly cut off from the veil certainly wasn't any help. You can barely interact with the veil because of the damage as well. Whenever your kind interacts with veil energies, it tries to empower you, as it was originally intended to. However, only the most undamaged of you are capable of surviving it, and most of the time your sanity does not remain intact. That's why all the others can view it as well. They were spliced with Toroctel's genetics as well. They were simply minor beings, created by the universe's whimsy, so taking in veil energies tends to crack their shallow vessel, even with the Toroctel's genes. Basilisk sat there in silence, staring at the ground in contemplation. With a hefty sigh, he looked back up to Akashiq. Thank you. This has been more informative than the memories themselves could have been. Akashiq smiled again, and then Basilisk's vision started to darken, and he stumbled. After a few seconds of trying to right himself, Akashiq spoke once again. I must fix your template, I apologize. This will not be comfortable, and it would not be just one time. Your template has gotten hundreds of errors throughout it. Darkness took him. Amaranth watched as Basilisk sat down on some rubble and shut his eyes. After about a minute, she noticed his shoulders went slack, so she paid a bit more attention, just in case something happened. She noticed that his features had softened before tears started streaming down, and a serene smile crept across his face. She laid down and watched on with a sad look in her eyes, as she had an idea of what he was seeing. Then a puzzled look crept along with his features for a while. She figured that he was watching her play in some trees or something and chuckled. Then a look of shock exploded across his features, before he toppled over and fell completely unconscious. She jumped up in shock herself before noticing that he had begun to change somewhat. Silver and gold cracks appeared all across Basilisk's body, before darkening once more. The cracks, along with his frame, slowly repaired themselves, due to Basilisk's nanite repair systems.